In this analysing non-fiction video, I want to discuss what to do when you first examine a text. Let's see some tips with an initial analysis. Now, as a student of language and literature, when you come across a text, don't forget to grasp it. Well, what does this mean? GRASP is an acronym to help us analyse a text. It stands for genre, register, audience, subject, and purpose. Let's break this down. Genre. You might have to analyse an article, a speech, a poster, poem, play, or a novel. These are just a few genres. Even within these, there are also subgenres to consider. For instance, a novel might be science fiction or romance, an article might be informative or persuasive. First, ask yourself, what type of text is it? To which genre and subgenre does it belong? Then, how does the genre affect the style and language? For instance, if it's an article, you might expect to see some headings, images, and fairly formal language. Finally, consider if the text adheres to the genre conventions or breaks them. If a text goes against the usual genre conventions, why might this be important? If a poster, which usually has images on it, has none, then consider why this change has been made. Next in GRASP, we look at register. Now, register is just a fancy word meaning the formality of language. Is the text formal or informal? Ask yourself why a speaker has used that level of formality. Now, with register, there are certain terms we should use to describe it. The first is frozen. Think about language being frozen in time, like farewell and Godspeed. You might see this in speeches or ceremonial documents. The second is formal, and you might see this in job listings or public addresses. An example could be goodbye, I look forward to seeing you again. The third is consultative. Goodbye and have a good weekend. This is still fairly formal and comes with some authority, but it's a little bit more personal than formal. This might be found in articles and speeches. Next, the language we use with friends is casual. Bye, take care. And finally, the language of lovers, intimate register. Ask yourself which register is used and why. What effect are they trying to have? Finally, with register, consider the tone of voice the speaker or the author has used. Are they optimistic, critical, matter of fact, informative, urgent, or sarcastic? These are just a few examples. When looking at a text, think about the intended audience. Who was the text made for? Consider race, gender, age, and socioeconomic status. How does the intended audience affect language and style? A movie poster, for instance, aimed at teenage boys would contain vastly different images to one aimed at older women. An article aimed at 50-year-old white males would likely differ to one aimed at 20-year-old African American women. Identify language, style, images, and devices which might be aimed at a specific audience and think about the purpose and the effect of such choices. Next, with subject, you're looking for the theme of a text, what the text is about, the main ideas presented. Is it about racism, harassment, style, culture, a housing crisis? What is literally happening in the text? What's going on in the images or the presented story? And again, think about how language, style, layout, or device is used to explore these themes. Finally, we have the purpose of the text. What is it trying to achieve? Is it trying to argue, persuade, inform, or entertain? If it's trying to argue or persuade, what exactly is it trying to argue and persuade its readers, and how does it achieve this? Think about rhetorical devices, appeals. Think about how it appeals to the emotions, logic, or sense of authority, or a combination of all three. Maybe there are multiple devices used. If the text is there to inform, what exactly is it trying to inform? Is there a bias which can be seen in the language or the layout? And considering the text purpose, how effective is it? To reiterate, how have language, style, images, and layout been used for this purpose? Now it's time to see an example. Take this poster. I'm going to grasp it. Let's just move these letters over here so I can make some space to make some notes and do some annotations. Now, I'll begin with genre. What type of text is it? How does the genre affect the style and language? And does the text adhere to these conventions or break them? Well, it's a poster. There's not a lot of text on it, and they've used striking images and colours. There's large headings at the top, and it starts with the word stop, a call to action. They've included some contact information at the bottom and some statistics. These are all pretty typical of posters. I can make my annotations and my notes here. Moving on then to register. How formal or informal is the text? Why has the author used a level of formality, and what tone of voice is used? Well, it's consultative. There's authority here, particularly in the fine print, as it asks them to please call them. I wouldn't say it's casual. The text tone in the heading is urgent. It's an order, calling for harassment to stop. The smaller text at the bottom has an informative tone, giving statistics and information to readers about the most common types of harassment. Next, we have the audience. Who is the intended audience of the text? I'll have to consider race, age, gender, and socioeconomic status. And how does the intended audience affect the style and language? Well, I'd say it's aimed at women. The colour choice, pink, purple, and red, are often associated as female colours. The two characters are both female figures. The #MeToo hashtag is also something which would be familiar to a female audience, particularly those between the ages of 16 and 40, those online. Even though it's calling for the audience to stop harassment, it's not aimed at those who are harassing. It's aimed at the victims of harassment. Next, I'll look at subject. What's it about? What are the main ideas, themes? What's literally happening? And what impact does this have on style and choices? Well, the theme is definitely sexual harassment. There are two characters, as I've said, two female figures with no faces or identities. They have their hands up like they're trying to protect themselves. Although you can't see it, it's like one of their hands is covering their mouths. The hand in the foreground has #MeToo, the #MeToo hashtag on it. This is part of a movement on Twitter which encouraged women to no longer be silent and to speak out about times they've been harassed or assaulted, highlighting the problem. The hand at the back has mask taped on it in the shape of a cross. This is possibly a symbol for being silenced, which might also be why both the other hands of both figures look like they're trying to cover their mouths. Perhaps this is saying that women are often silenced, but they should speak out. At the bottom of the poster, there's statistics, a large number, signifying how big of a problem this is. Below is helpful contact information for the victims to speak to someone, and in the top right corner there is a ribbon, used often as a symbol of awareness for various causes. Now, as I've said, in bold letters is a call to action, an order to stop. The colour scheme really makes this pop, and the white text on a red background actually feels like a stop sign, a warning. Again, I can make all of my notes. Finally, I'll move on to purpose. What is the text trying to achieve? What exactly is it trying to persuade, inform, or argue? And how effective is this? How have language and style been manipulated for this purpose? Well, despite looking like it's trying to persuade people to stop harassing, the poster is really to inform. It's to inform audiences on how common the problem of harassment really is, and it tries to provide basic information to those who have been victims or have witnessed it. The poster does try to persuade and encourage people to come forward, whether they're victims or witnesses. And it is because of this that I don't think the poster is very effective. The poster really encourages victims and witnesses to speak out and not be silent. However, the order takes centre stage, the order to stop. And so the real message gets lost on its intended audience. However, you might disagree with that. You might think the poster was effective. So, just to remind you about levelling analysis with non-fiction text, I'll start with level 3. Well, level 3, you want to consider the purpose of the text, if it's there to inform, persuade, entertain, or argue. Also consider the intended audience of the text and how audiences shaped language and style. Next, consider the theme or the main idea of the text. Also, how effective the text might be. And finally, genre. At level 2, Think about the tone, the author's attitude towards the subject. What mood is created? How do the audience feel? What's the atmosphere? Next, if there's a rhetorical appeal, what rhetorical appeal is it? And finally, the register. What register does the text take? With level 1, consider images, style, layout, and any other choices that have an effect or purpose. Is there specific lexical choice or diction which has an effect, or are there rhetorical devices used in the text? Remember, when you're analysing a text, grasp it. Genre, register, audience, subject, and purpose. Here are a few questions to help you do this. What type of text is it? How does the genre affect style and language? And does the text adhere to the genre or break it? Register. How formal or informal is the text, and why has the author used this level of formality? What tone of voice is used? Audience. Who is the intended audience of the text? Remember to consider race, age, gender, and socio-economic status. And how does the intended audience affect language and style? Subject. What's the text about? What are the themes and main ideas? What's happening? And what impact does the subject have on language and style choices? Finally, purpose. What is the text trying to achieve? Is it trying to persuade, inform, entertain, or argue? And what exactly is it trying to do? In what ways has language and style been used for this purpose? Thanks for watching and good luck.